The snow hadn't touched her, but she was covered in white. I never saw her blink. I only saw her look up, like she was waiting to thaw. I'm telling you this now because it's the only thing I've ever seen that felt like a memory someone else gave me, and lately I've started to wonder if maybe it was the lake wasn't always frozen, that winter hit too early and stayed too long. The kind of cold that makes the trees look like they're holding their breath. I'd only just moved back into the old house, the one my uncle left me after he passed in the hospital. I hadn't seen him in years, and I didn't go visit at the end. We weren't close, and honestly I only remembered fragments, his long silences, the soup he always burned, and the way he'd talk to the lake like it could answer back. I took the house because I had nothing else. The divorce had taken what mattered, and the job had taken the rest. When I moved in, everything was quiet. No traffic, no neighbors, no hum of distant roads. Just the wind against the siding and the occasional groan of the old floorboards adjusting to my weight. The house faced the lake, a wide sheet of still frozen water, its edges curled with cattails and dead grass. There was something about it that didn't feel right. Not eerie, not dramatic, just wrong. The ice never looked solid, but no cracks ever formed. Birds wouldn't land near it. My phone didn't pick up any signal unless I walked 20 feet toward the tree line. It didn't matter at first. I liked the silence after everything I'd left behind. I thought I'd earned some emptiness. The first few nights I slept too well. No dreams, no movement. But around the end of the first week I started waking up just before 300. And every night, no sound, no reason, just an electric stillness in the room, like someone had just turned off a television. I'd sit up in bed, the sheets cold, even under my weight, and look out the frost-lined window, and every night I'd see the same thing, a pale shape on the lake, too far to make out, but unmistakably human. I told myself it was the light. The way moonlit snow plays tricks on the eye. I told myself that because I had to. The second week I walked down to the lake in daylight. It was empty, of course. The ice was smooth, flat, untouched. I stared into the distance, trying to find the spot where I thought I'd seen her. There was nothing. No markings, no footprints, but I felt something shift under my skin. Not fear, something quieter, like a question I didn't want to hear. I turned around and saw the upstairs curtain move. I was alone in the house. I hadn't even opened that room. I walked inside slowly, my boots leaving small trails of melted snow on the floor. The house creaked like it was thinking. When I reached the upstairs landing, the door to the guest room was open. The curtain was still, no wind. I stood there for a long time trying to remember if I'd left that door open. I couldn't. My memory started to soften after that. Little things: I'd wake up and my socks would be damp. Even though I hadn't stepped outside, I'd find the back door unlocked or the hall light on though. I remembered turning everything off. The fridge would hum differently. At night the floorboards would groan in places I wasn't walking still. I stayed. I told myself it was adjustment, that houses breathe and creak and resist their new owners. But that didn't explain the voice. Soft, distant. At first I thought it was a radio static, words under the floor murmuring just below sense. But it was always the same phrase. Just one sentence. Always when I stood near the lake-facing window. Always when I was alone. She's not under the ice. The third week, one found the tapes. They were in a shoebox in the attic, tucked behind a panel in the wall. My uncle's handwriting, faint and trembling. Do not rewind. There were 6 of them, all unlabeled, all worn. I had an old player in a box of my own, one of the few things I'd brought. I don't know why I did it. I think some part of me already knew what they were. I played the first one just before midnight. Static at first, then silence. Then a sound like breathing underwater, and then a voicemail. Older, slow. She walks when the ice remembers her. I stopped it. I sat there in the dark with the player still humming, like it wanted to say more. I didn't sleep that night. I played the next tape at dawn. This time I heard my uncle. He was speaking to someone, but his tone was off, too careful, too afraid. I saw her eyes through the ice last night. I think she knows I'm watching. The next part was quieter. I think she looks like my sister did. But my sister drowned in August. I stopped the tape and went outside. The lake was still, nothing beneath, nothing above. But the wind was warm wrong for January. The snow was melting in strange patterned spirals. Long strokes like someone had been brushing it away with a hand. I stayed inside. For the rest of the day, that night I heard the sound again. From under the floorboards this time. The same words, not a whisper, not a threat. Just a reminder. She's not under the ice. I didn't know what to do with that. Was she above it? Was she in the house? The third tape was shorter, just scratching then crying. Then my uncle. I dug and dug and dug, but the lake won't open. I think I buried her wrong. That was when I realized. I didn't remember my uncle ever having a sister. Or a daughter or anyone. I looked through the documents he left behind. No birth certificates. No photos of family. Just tax receipts, letters he'd never mailed, notes about the lake. And one entry in a journal written years ago. If you see her, don't follow. She's only real if you try. I didn't know what that meant, not until I saw her again. But this time it was 304 a.m. and she was closer. The ice didn't hold her weight, but she didn't sink. She wasn't walking exactly, more like remembering how to move, her head tilted toward the house. And though her face was smooth, blank, unreadable, I knew she was looking for someone. I stopped sleeping. I started hearing footsteps upstairs. The guest room would be open again. The curtain would be blowing gently, but the window always stayed shut. I stopped going into that room. The fourth tape was just the word "sorry" said over and over in different voices. One of them sounded like mine. I didn't press play on the fifth. I left it on the porch. In the morning, it was gone. The snow didn't show any prints. The sixth tape was the last one I listened to. I wish I hadn't. My uncle's voice, slow and deliberate. I tried to forget. But the lake remembers for you, that's what. It's for you. Give it your memories, it holds them. But memories rot. Then a pause. Then she came from the thaw. I think she was mine. But she doesn't know who she is anymore. That's why she watches. She wants me to name her. And the very last thing. If she knocks, don't open the door. She doesn't know she died. I've been thinking about that a lot, about what we forget on purpose, about what comes back wrong. Because last night someone knocked, 3 soft knocks, no urgency. I didn't move, I didn't breathe, I just sat in the dark waiting. The knock came again. Then silence. I waited an hour before opening the door. There was nothing there, just the pale stretch of the lake beyond the trees. I closed the door, locked it. Sat down, but something was wrong. The house felt different, the weight of it, the smell, the cold, like I'd walked into a place pretending to be mine. The mirrors all had frost on them from the inside. My reflection blinked out of sync, and when I went upstairs, the guest room door was gone. Just wall now. I tried to touch it, but my hand felt resistance, like glass or ice. That was 3 days ago. The layout of the house keeps changing now. Sometimes the stairs turn left instead of right. Sometimes the kitchen has 2 windows. Sometimes I open a drawer and find nothing but snow. I stopped eating. I stopped calling out. The phone's dead now, even the recordings I made of the tapes are just silence. I tried to leave once. Made it as far as the tree line before I blacked out. Woke up in the guest room, though the door still isn't there. She was standing at the foot of the bed, watching, not moving, just waiting, like the lake does, like the house does, like I do. I think I know now. I think she isn't someone who drowned. I think she's someone who was forgotten. A piece of a memory too painful to keep, so it sank. And the lake, it's not water, it's memory, and it freezes what we abandon until it's ready to come back up. I think I left someone there once. A long time ago, before the divorce, before the job, before I was this. A girl, pale, watching, and now she wants me to remember. She wants me to name her, and I think if I do, I won't be me anymore. I'll be what's left after memory. What's left after frost. I didn't listen. I rewound the tape. It played something new. Just one line. My voice quiet, scared. I see her under the ice, but I'm looking down. The hallway light above my apartment door has been buzzing for 7 years, and I don't know who to call about it anymore. Not because I've given up, but because I'm starting to wonder if it's the only thing left in this building that remembers me being here. I had a habit of leaving my apartment unlocked when I stepped out, mostly because the doors swelled in summer and jammed in winter, and the deadbolt needed both hands to crank properly, but also, if I'm being honest, because I liked the idea that someone might come in while I was gone, just for a second, just to look around, just to make it feel less empty when I got back. I didn't tell anyone that, of course, not the leasing office when they asked about the bent key in the lock, not my sister when she visited once and said, half joking, that the place smelled like I wasn't really living in it, and certainly not the man in 4B, who liked to stand too close in the elevator and asked if I ever felt watched on this floor. I never used to feel watched, not until the Tuesday when I came home and the door was locked from the inside. At first I thought I was just tired, that I must have locked it without remembering that maybe I'd been more careful than usual, but I hadn't brought my keys that day, and I only noticed because I reached for the knob like I always did, and it didn't turn, not even a little, not even with that soft give it usually had, like the door was trying to make up its mind. I stood there for maybe 5 minutes listening to that light buzz above me like a mosquito in glass, then knocked stupidly before realizing how absurd that was. And then I waited again, thinking the door would unlock like whoever was inside just needed a moment to finish something before they came and let me in. Don't remember how I got inside that night, only that the super said I'd called him, but my call history was empty, and that I'd said something about a click and the smell of the stove, which didn't make sense to either of us since the gas had been shut off for months. Used a master key and pushed hard against the frame to open it, and when we finally got inside, the place was dim and cold, and still like it hadn't been entered in years, like even I wasn't welcome anymore. Nothing was missing, but everything felt different. He'd left the TV on low volume static channel because I liked the way the noise filled the corners, but it was off now, and the plug was out of the wall, and the couch cushion where I usually sat was still warm, like someone had been there for a long time. Waiting, I didn't tell the super that part. He asked if I wanted the locks changed, and I said no because something in me already knew it wouldn't matter. The next morning I found a black hair on my pillow. I have light hair, always have, and I convinced myself it must have stuck to my coat at the laundromat, but the pillowcase was clean, freshly changed, which meant someone had pulled the blanket back before I got in bed. That was the first night I dreamed about the hallway, not the whole building, just a stretch of corridor from the elevator to my door. I was standing in it facing my apartment, and the light above buzzed like always, except this time it was rhythmical, short, short, long, short, short, long, like it was blinking in Morse code, even though it never went out. And the door, my door, wasn't closed. It was cracked open, just enough to see that the apartment was pitch dark inside, like there were no walls, like the space went on forever. I walked toward it, and every step I took made the buzzing louder until it was vibrating my teeth, but I never reached the threshold. I woke up just before stepping inside. Every time heart racing, but body still like I wasn't supposed to move. I didn't leave the apartment for 3 days after that. I lived on canned soup and dry cereal, and used the shower only once, afraid the sound of the water would drown out whatever might be trying to tell me something underneath. It's hard to explain how it starts to feel when your own home becomes a place you need to tiptoe through, like someone else is already there and you don't want to wake them. The second cliffhanger came when I found the note. It was on the kitchen counter under a chipped mug I hadn't used in months, and it wasn't a note really, just a receipt from the corner market dated 2 days prior, listing 3 items I hadn't bought: matches, apples, and shoelaces, but my name was printed on the top in smudged ink. I went to the store and showed it to the clerk, and she said, "Yeah, you came in on Wednesday, bought the usual odd stuff." Didn't say much, looked a little pale, maybe hungover, but I hadn't left the apartment since Monday, and I don't drink. I started locking the door, then even if it stuck, started stacking shoes against it too. Cheap little tripwires of sound in case someone tried to open it from the inside. But every morning I'd find them neatly placed back on the rack, like someone had stepped over them and then tidied up. The hallway light never stopped buzzing. It sounded louder now, even through the walls, like it was moving inside the wiring of the whole apartment. like it wasn't just the bulb anymore. I called an electrician, but he said nothing was wrong, no short circuits, no power surges, no signs of tampering. He asked why it bothered me so much, and I told him I didn't like the feeling of something repeating for no reason. Laughed and said that's just electricity. It finds a path and runs it over and over, same as always. I asked him if people could be like that too. He didn't answer. The third cliffhanger wasn't even the worst thing. It was just the most impossible. I came home one night after forcing myself out for a walk just to feel like a person again, and found the TV on, not static this time, but playing a program. I couldn't recognize it. Looked like footage of my building, the hallway specifically, same angle I always dreamed from, just a few feet behind me facing the door. I watched for a minute trying to make sense of it, and then I saw myself walk into frame. I looked tired, older, like I'd been sick for a while. I stood in front of the door, reached out and pushed it open. But when the door swung wide, there was no apartment on the other side. Only more hallway, the same hallway. I entered it again and walked slower until I reached another door, the same door. I did this 3 times before the screen went black. I checked the input, no disc, no cable, no USB, just signal, none. I left the TV unplugged after that, but every night it came back on at 241 and buzzing like the hallway light, which had become so loud I couldn't tell where the walls ended anymore. I started sleeping in the bathtub just to be away from the hallway. I don't know when the apartment stopped feeling like mine, only that one morning I woke up and all the photos on the fridge had been flipped backward. The magnets were still holding them up, but the images faced the wall. Even the one of me and my sister, even the one I took of the hallway when I first moved in. Went to tear them down but couldn't bring myself to do it. It felt rude. Instead, I started writing my name on scraps of paper and hiding them around the apartment, under cushions, inside drawers, behind the toilet tank, just to see if they'd still be there in the morning. They never were, I don't think. I'm alone here. I don't think I ever was. I started hearing movement at night, saw things like someone shifting their weight in the dark, or pages turning just outside the door. I turned on all the lights once at 3 a.m., and the hallway light above the apartment finally flickered. Not off, not exactly, just slow, hesitant dimming, like it was thinking about it. And then I heard the deadbolt turn itself, a single click from the inside. I ran to the door, but it was locked. I knocked, then shouted, then whispered, but no one answered. Not even May. Waited until morning, not sleeping, not moving, just staring at the gap under the door like it might widen. And for the first time, I noticed there was no light bleeding through from the hallway, like it had gone out there too. When the sun rose, I opened the door and found the hallway exactly the same, buzzing light and all. But something was different. The door across from mine had a mirror leaning against it. Not a full-length mirror, just a shard, cracked, resting at an angle that let me see myself as I stepped into the hall. Only it wasn't me. It was the version of me I'd seen on the TV, pale, tired, slightly off-center, like the body had settled unevenly over the bones. It blinked a second too late. I stepped backward into the apartment and shut the door. Didn't sleep that night, didn't leave for 2 more, and when I finally did, I left the apartment unlocked again, like I always used to. Just wanted to see what would happen. I walked for hours trying to forget what the mirror showed me, trying to decide if I should go to someone, doctor, priest, anyone, but I kept thinking about how the hallway light had finally flickered, like it was trying to tell me I wasn't needed anymore. When I got back, the door was locked tight, clean, secure. From the inside, I knocked, half expecting my own voice to answer, and when it didn't, I waited longer than anyone should wait. Eventually, I walked to the end of the hall and looked back. The hallway light buzzed steadily above my door. Short, long, short, short, long. I think I must have moved out sometime after that. Don't remember packing. Don't remember forwarding my mail or canceling the lease. I found a set of keys in my coat pocket the other day, with a tag that says 4 canned. I haven't lived in 4C4 years, not since the day I came home and found the door locked from the inside, and the hallway light was silent, and I couldn't remember what my apartment ever looked like on the other side.